Lately, I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. Baby, I've been praying hard.
What is up, everybody? Enderheart here, back with Cipher Secret, and today we will be reading chapter 26, Into the Nightmare Realm, part 1. So this is of the Fallen Royalty arc. I don't think I quite understand that. Daniel groaned after having explained everything for the 5th time while walking towards Azaf's house with Dana alongside him. She did nothing but snicker the whole time Daniel was trying to explain to Dipper the whole story about the forest, the clues, and the secret passageway, and all the stuff that had been going on lately. He was failing miserably on this task, mainly because he was being messy with the whole thing, causing everything to be even more confusing, seeing that he had already explained everything to Dipper 5 times, and nothing would really work. Really, nothing. Nobody was really sure if the brunette was a lost cause, or Daniel lacked the ability to explain things. Dan, you can try and explain things later. Daniel was about to explain for the 6th time about the whole incident when Azaf interrupted him. The black-haired preteen was carrying an object which was given to him by Aronde, afraid that Dana would drop it. Wasn't hard to believe she would do it, talking about Aronde. She had also returned him the feather Dana had found in the forest, telling them she had finished her analysis. That girl is strange. I wonder what she meant with all the a sound soul talk, Azaf thought while gripping the object tightly. They were going to his house because he needed to hide it somewhere. As they were about to part ways and return to their houses, Azaf received his mentor's message through a pigeon, and it was said to meet him at the forest and about going to hell. Azaf and the rest were walking slowly. It would have been a faster trip if they had gone running or even teleported, but Azaf was enjoying this trip so far. The road was quiet and almost no one knew that it existed, which meant the road was practically abandoned. It connected Gravity Falls and the town he lived in, Summerfield, where his house was. Right now, our priority is to hide this thing, he concluded. Daniel rolled his eyes. If you say so. Dipper, what happened to your shirt? It was Dana who asked this. With all the rest, all Dipper managed to get on were his shoes and the pine tree hat. Dipper wished he could go back to the shack and grab his vest and the 3rd journal, but that wasn't possible anymore. Azaf said they had to go to the meeting point right after he hid the object in his hands, and Dipper didn't feel like arguing right now. Also, there was a chance that, being with him, Bill wouldn't try to steal the journal. It's not like Dipper trusted him just by making a deal. Of course not. Long story, he replied simply. It involves a ghost girl and a story about a corrupted prince, Corbos, and many other things. He continued, not giving many details. Dana smirked at this, because it sounded like a cool story, though Dipper could really tell otherwise. She didn't know what Corbos were, but they sounded like interesting creatures. I was going out when this girl appeared in the mystery shack and wanted me to take her to the parking lot. Remind you that we don't have a parking lot. Dipper grinned upon seeing Dana frowned. I knew her, somehow, and then I shouldn't be talking about this. I think I'm being a bother. Am I not? He gave an apologetic smile. Daniel shook his head. You're not being a bother. And the story is getting interesting. What happens next? He asked, as if he had finished reading a thriller book and was eager to read the next one. I'd rather not tell, but Dipper took a deep breath before continuing. The story still pained inside of him because of Aronde's betrayal, but the more he told, the more it'd get funny. From another's point of view, it was surprising, but from his point of view, what Aronde did was shocking. She led me through the forest and into a clearing, and then she said a word. I don't remember what it was, though. He stopped to think before shaking the thought off his mind, and then Dipper stopped. Not only talking, but walking too. And then what? Dana asked impatiently, just to be elbowed by her brother. She already knew what this meant and immediately shut her mouth, pouting. I don't want to talk about it, Dipper finished. You guys know what Corbos are, right? He suddenly asked. The memory made his heart ache, and it felt like he was going to fall unconscious any minute. The red-haired twins shook their head, completely confused. They weren't aware of any kind of creatures called Corbos, though it was a funny name. Suddenly, Azaf stopped walking, and his house could be seen not very far away. He lifted his head to look at them, and all the 3 kids were surprised to see his eyes so numb. How do you think my mother died? Everybody fell silent as he kept walking. Wait! Dana said suddenly when they had finally reached Azaf's house. The 4 children were standing in front of the house, a little far away from the other houses of the town of Summerfield, and noticing how big the house was, more or less like the Mystery Shack, though. "How are we going to enter inside the house without getting your lazy sister's attention?" she asked. That wasn't such a bad question after all, though Azaf seemed to already know what to do. "We're teleporting, of course," he asked, like it was the simplest thing ever. "Give me your hands." Azaf put the object under his arm as he grabbed Dana's hand, who grabbed Daniel's, and he grabbed Dipper's. Azaf closed his eyes for a moment as the world around them began to distort until they were on another place. It looked like a room, and it was a room, Azaf's room, obviously. "Alright, don't make too much noise. I think Anne's still downstairs." Everybody nodded. "Good. I need a place to hide this," he whispered. "Maybe the closet will do. It's not like Anne cares about my clothes anyway." And then he went to the large closet at the corner of the room. All the clothes were neatly folded inside as he placed the object carefully inside the closet, covering it with a few clothes and underwear. Anne would never touch his underwear, and that'd hide the thing for some time. Ignoring Azaf for a while, Dipper noticed how neat the room was. Describing it would take a lot of time, but he had lots of books and all kinds of things. Then one book caught his attention. Myths and Facts, The Door to the Unknown. Dipper took a step closer to analyze the book without touching it. It seemed old and dusty, and this caught Dipper's attention. He had always liked books, especially the ones about mystery, like The Sibling Brothers. Dipper would stay up all or most of the night reading these books, and he wouldn't stop. "Hey, Azaf, can I read this book?" he asked, pointing to the old book. Azaf nodded, without even turning around. Dipper extended his hand and grabbed the book, noticing how dusty it was. There were handprints on the dust, revealing that somebody had already read that book before. He opened the book and flicked through the pages until he stopped on a specific page that was titled Dreambenders. Intrigued and a little surprised, he kept reading. "Are creatures capable of installing themselves inside of a mortal's dreams and controlling them at their will, and usually modifying them according to the mortal's fears. They usually don't have a proper form and are normally described as shadows or blurs. The dream benders don't seem to interact with the connector, who is the person who has the dream, in any way, and it is claimed that they just watch them from a far distance or corner. Many people believe the dream benders are just a myth." Dipper closed the book and let out a shaky breath. He had more questions than ever now. What was a dream bender? Why do people believe that they are a myth? Was that the creature he had made a deal with a dream bender? According to the description, it sounded like one. The thought of that creature reminded him of the only words that settled in his nightmares, and that made him shiver just by thinking of them. "Oh, I didn't kill these filthy creatures. You did." Dipper then held both sides of his head tightly when the disheveled voice crept through his mind. Then he remembered what Kinessi had told them, the phrase that started all of this. "It's Bill's son. He has escaped." Escaped from where? From whom? What was Kinessi and Beatrice hiding from him? What were Azaf, Daniel, and Dana hiding from him? What was his family hiding from him? Dipper could already feel a headache coming and barely noticed the book falling to the floor. When he heard the thud, Dipper extended his hand and grabbed the book, then noticed the page was now different. It was between page 44 and 47. Azaf, where's the 45th and 46th page?" Dipper asked suddenly. Azaf closed the closet and turned to Dipper, looking at the book he was reading. His eyes widened slightly. He wasn't aware that Dipper was reading that book. I don't know. I think it may have fallen, but I'm not sure." Azaf grabbed the book and put it back on the shelf. "Alright, let's teleport back. The mentors must be waiting for us," he announced. Dana and Daniel nodded, but Dipper was lost in thought. People believed the ciphers were a myth, and one of their family members killed all of the falling angels. Then he remembered the dead people around him. It was a dream, but it felt so real, especially the smell of corpses, blood, and death. Did he really kill them? How could he have killed people he didn't know? Were those people fallen angels? What were fallen angels exactly? He felt like his head was going to explode. "Dipper, you okay in there?" Daniel asked, interrupting his thought. Yeah, I'm okay," Dipper answered meekly, standing up and looking at them with a sincere glare. "I'm okay." But he wasn't. "Hey, Azaf, what's that?" Dana asked when they were already far away from the house. She extended her hand and revealed the chip that had been once attached to the wyvern's neck. Dana didn't seem to be paying attention to what the mentors were saying about it, but then, because she obviously didn't know what it was. When Dipper laid his eyes on the chip, they widened as he almost tripped on a pebble that was on the way. Daniel was also surprised, mainly because they didn't know what had happened to the chip after the mentors took it. "Don't touch that!" Azaf snapped the chip from her hands. Snapping his fingers, the chip was engulfed in blue flames before disappearing in front of the apprentice's eyes. Azaf had just magically teleported it back to his room. For how long has he been practicing that? I managed to recreate the chip using magic spells in my memory of it. I've trained this for days, and I'm trying to analyze the meanings of the numbers, so please don't touch my stuff unless I allow you to do so, Dana, he scolded. Dana rolled her eyes and stuck her tongue out. Whatever, Mr. Smarty Pants. Don't call me that! We're here, Azaf announced as the other 3 apprentices followed him through the forest. As he stopped, everything became gray, and the 4 children felt their bodies become lighter, as well as their minds. This always happened when they were in the dreamscape. 3 forms appeared in front of them, shining brightly, a triangle, a square, and a circle. This forced the apprentices to shield their eyes with their hands before the light disappeared completely and the forest returned to its normal gray color. Well, 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 you're finally here. You humans are so slow, Bill commented, twirling the black cane around in his fingers slowly. Dipper wanted to reply with a sarcastic comment and was ready to do so, but forced himself to keep his mouth shut. Something told him to shut up and be quiet. He shouldn't interrupt. Right now, he had to listen. Anyways, when are we all going? It's not that easy, Bill, Kinessi replied as he narrowed his eyes at Bill. The square turned to the other apprentices. Entering in the nightmare realm, or as you humans call it lamely, hell, isn't as easy as it sounds, because Bill suddenly interrupted him harshly, pushing him to the side and dramatically answering. Because many half-demons have felt disturbing pains and most of them died. All the apprentices paled. Beatrice laughed hysterically when Kinessi shot Bill a glare that was equal to 1,000 daggers going through your soul. What? The first part is true. Kinessi shot Beatrice another glare. She immediately fell silent. Sighing, Kinessi pushed Bill out of the way. Ready? He asked as a bright light surrounded the area of the forest. It formed a circle around them. The 4 children wanted to scream, "No!" but their heads simply nodded as they felt eager to finish this. It would be easier this way. The light got brighter, and it turned out to be a bright golden color, but then flicked to blue, then to pink, then the sequence continued. A pink light surrounded Azaf, who felt a tingle of pain at his fingertips just before being lifted into the air, with small particles surrounding his body and circling it. Azaf seemed a bit shocked, but nothing more. They didn't even need to be shocked at this point. The same thing happened to Daniel and Dana right after, but the light's color was blue, as well as all the particles surrounding them. Daniel seemed a little scared when Dana seemed excited. Don't freak out, Kinessi said. No one knew if it was a suggestion or a warning. The pain is just the power running through your veins. It gets stronger when you're in the nightmare realm or in the borders. Now close your eyes and focus. Dipper didn't hear the rest of the lecture. His mind went numb as he watched his comrades in awe, afraid to be the next one and afraid to feel the pain. They didn't look very pleased, but it didn't seem that bad either. And then it was his turn. He felt a golden light surrounding his body, and felt the light suddenly, and the next thing he knew it, he was being lifted off the ground. After this, his whole body started tickling before this became pain, absolute pain. Dipper suppressed a groan of pain before everything around him started to fade. He turned to Azaf, Daniel, and Dana to see if he was really becoming blind, but they were still there, with their pupils gone. Their eyes were shining pink and blue, respectively, and this made Dipper want to look at his own reflection. Soon the pain became almost unbearable, as all the apprentices grimaced with pain, not wanting to show any weakness. Dipper clenched his fists and gritted his teeth, hoping it would go away soon. The world finally faded until everything around them was black. The mentors were nowhere to be seen. Kinesi's voice rang in his head. Don't freak out. Dipper tried to relax, even though the pain was now forming a headache, and then remembered another thing that Kinesi had said. Just close your eyes and focus. And Dipper did so. Soon he couldn't feel the pain, and he felt gravity affecting him once more as his feet touched the ground and noticed how cold the place was. Dipper opened his eyes slowly as he looked at his surroundings. It was almost like the forest he had been a while ago, almost. Even with the sky as blue as ever, something that didn't seem to be common for somewhere like the Nightmare Realm. It was pretty obvious that this place wasn't Gravity Falls because of one important thing. God damn it, Dana exclaimed loudly. I've lived in America for God knows how long, and I've never seen snow, or an avalanche, or anything, and then this is the first time I see snow is in hell? It's snowing, for fuck's sake. What a controversial thing. I was expecting more screaming and torture and stuff, but no. The first thing I see is snow. Something totally calm. Dana, get a hold of yourself, Daniel warned, but he couldn't help but be impressed either. It was snowing in hell.